Poor young girl, let a strange man and his son stay for one night unaware. He's a millionaire CEO who— Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's begin with today's story. On a cold, rainy evening in a small town, Maria, a young girl barely out of her teens, found herself standing outside her modest apartment building. The weather had turned grim, with dark clouds filling the sky and the streets slick with rain. Maria had just finished her shift at the local diner, where she worked long hours to make ends meet. Despite the hardships, she always kept a positive attitude, but tonight, something felt different. As she walked down the street, pulling her worn coat tighter against the chill, she noticed a man and his son standing by the bus stop. The man looked disheveled, his clothes damp from the rain. The boy beside him, maybe around 8 years old, seemed exhausted, his eyes drooping with sleep. Maria couldn't help but feel a tug at her heart. She had little to offer, but when she saw the boy shivering, her instincts kicked in. "Are you two okay?" she asked, stepping closer to them. The man looked up, his face tired but grateful. "We're fine, just waiting for the bus," he replied, though his voice carried an edge of worry. It was clear that they had nowhere to go. Without thinking, Maria offered them her spare room for the night. "I have a small apartment nearby. You can stay there until the storm passes." The man hesitated for a moment, but then nodded gratefully. "Thank you. You don't know how much this means to us." That night, Maria prepared a small meal for them. As the rain tapped against the window, they sat together at her modest kitchen table. She learned that the man, who introduced himself as Jack, had been traveling with his son, searching for a place to stay after being kicked out of their previous accommodations. Maria, having lived through struggles of her own, understood the feeling all too well. She offered them a warm bed and a hot meal, not expecting anything in return. After all, she knew what it was like to be down on your luck. As they sat there, sharing stories, Maria couldn't help but feel a strange connection to Jack. Despite the exhaustion in his eyes, he had a quiet strength about him, something that drew her in. The boy, Timmy, was shy at first, but soon warmed up, telling her about his school and his dreams of becoming a scientist. Maria listened, offering him encouragement, and for a moment, it felt as though the world outside had faded away. But what Maria didn't know was that Jack wasn't just any man. He wasn't the average traveler down on his luck. In fact, he wasn't even close. Jack was the CEO of a multi-million-dollar tech company, one of the most influential men in the city. However, he had kept his identity hidden, wanting to experience life without the trappings of his wealth. He had spent the night with Maria and her kindness, without her knowing who he truly was. Little did she know that her simple act of generosity was about to change both of their lives forever. ***. Poor young girl let a strange man and his son stay for one night unaware. He's a millionaire CEO who— Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue with today's story. The rain had finally stopped, but the gray sky still hung low over the small town. The next morning, Maria awoke to the sound of Timmy's laughter echoing from the living room. She rubbed her eyes and smiled, feeling a warmth in her heart as she heard the boy's voice. She hadn't expected to wake up to such a peaceful moment, but it felt nice. When she stepped into the living room, she found Timmy playing with a puzzle she had left out for him. Jack, the man she had helped the night before, sat at the small dining table with a cup of coffee in his hands. He looked up when she entered. "Morning," he said with a small smile. "I hope we didn't wake you." Maria shook her head, still a bit groggy, but grateful for their presence. "No, it's fine. How did you sleep?" Jack's eyes softened as he stood up. Better than I've slept in a long time, he admitted. Thank you again, Maria. You didn't have to do this. She waved off his gratitude. It was nothing. You both needed help, and I had a spare room. Besides, I know what it's like to struggle. No one should have to face it alone. As they sat down to a simple breakfast, Maria felt a connection to Jack that she couldn't explain. He was different from the men she usually met, polite, calm, and kind. She found herself laughing at his jokes, and Timmy seemed to brighten up around him, which only made Maria feel more at ease. They ate together, and for a while, it felt like everything was normal, like the weight of the world outside didn't exist. However, Maria couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Jack than met the eye. She noticed the way he carried himself, with a quiet confidence, almost as if he didn't quite belong in the small apartment. His clothes were a bit too neat for someone in his situation, and he spoke in a way that suggested he was used to a different life. It wasn't until later that day, when Jack left to grab a few things from his car, that Maria realized how much she had underestimated him. She was cleaning up the breakfast dishes when she saw him walk out of the building, holding a sleek leather briefcase. He had seemed so normal that she hadn't even thought about the possibility of him being wealthy, but now she couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that something was off. As the day wore on, Jack returned with bags of groceries and a few gifts for her. "These are for you," he said, offering her a small bouquet of flowers and a bottle of wine. "I wanted to thank you properly for your kindness." Maria was taken aback by the gesture, but she smiled gratefully. "You really didn't have to," she said, feeling a bit overwhelmed. They spent the rest of the afternoon together, chatting and laughing like old friends. The more they talked, the more Maria began to wonder about Jack's past. He was always careful with his words, never going into too much detail about his life. But Maria couldn't ignore the feeling that he was holding something back. Later that evening, after dinner, Jack offered to help Maria with some repairs around the apartment. She was skeptical at first, after all. He didn't seem like the handyman type, but when he got to work, she realized he was much more skilled than he let on. As he fixed a leaky faucet and patched up a hole in the wall, Maria started to understand that Jack wasn't just a man down on his luck. There was a quiet competence in everything he did, and it was becoming clear that he was hiding a lot more than he had let on. That night, as Maria sat on the couch, she thought about the strange, mysterious man who had come into her life so unexpectedly. She couldn't shake the feeling that Jack wasn't who he claimed to be. But what if she was wrong? What if he was just a man in need of help, like so many others she had met before? As the night grew darker, Maria found herself lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. She couldn't help but wonder what would happen next. Would Jack reveal the truth about himself? Would her life be forever changed by the simple kindness she had shown to a stranger? The questions lingered in her mind, but for now, she could only wait for the answers to unfold. Asterisk, poor young girl let a strange man and his son stay for one night unaware. He's a millionaire CEO who, asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue with today's story. The following days seemed to pass in a blur. Maria and Jack continued to share the small apartment, though something had changed. While Jack was still kind and helpful, there was an underlying tension between them. Maria couldn't shake the feeling that Jack was keeping secrets. He was always polite, but there was a distance in his eyes, something he was hiding. As they went about their daily routines, she couldn't ignore the strange unease that had begun to settle in her heart. One afternoon, as Maria was cleaning up after a quick lunch, she received an unexpected phone call. It was from her best friend, Jenny. "Maria, I don't know if you've heard, but there's been a huge article about Jack in the news." Maria froze, wiping her hands on her apron. "Jack? What do you mean? What article?" Jenny's voice lowered, as if she were afraid to speak too loudly. "It's about a billionaire CEO named Jack Harrison. He's been missing for a few days, and the media is all over it. He owns that massive tech company, Harrison Technologies. They're saying he's been living off the grid, but no one knows why." Maria's heart skipped a beat. Jack. The name was familiar, but she had never made the connection. Harrison Technologies? Billionaire CEO? She could hardly believe it. Could Jack really be the man the news was talking about? It seemed impossible, but as Jenny described the man in the article, Maria started to piece things together. Jack's quiet confidence, his reluctance to talk about his past, and the way he carried himself, it all made sense now. That evening, when Jack returned home from running errands, Maria could hardly look at him. She felt a knot form in her stomach. How had she not realized sooner? He had always been polite and generous, but now she understood that there was much more to him than he had let on. When Jack saw her standing by the window, deep in thought, he approached her cautiously. "Maria," he began, his voice low and steady, "I can see something is bothering you. Is everything all right?" She turned to face him, her heart racing. "I found out who you really are, Jack," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "You're a billionaire CEO. Harrison Technologies. The news? They're saying you've been missing." Jack's expression faltered for a brief moment, but then he exhaled slowly, almost as if he had been expecting this moment. "I didn't want to tell you," he said quietly. "I came here to escape all of that, to live a simple life, even if it was just for a while. I didn't want anyone to treat me differently." Maria stared at him, trying to process everything she had just heard. The man she had been sharing her life with for the past week, the man she had offered kindness to, was a millionaire. But it wasn't just his wealth that was confusing. It was the secrecy, the distance he had kept. "Why didn't you tell me?" Maria asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jack looked down at the floor, as if he were searching for the right words. "Because I didn't want you to see me for my money. I wanted you to see me for who I am, not for what I have. And I didn't want to feel like I was using your kindness for my own benefit." Maria felt a pang in her chest. She had offered him help out of the goodness of her heart, and now she wondered if it had all been for the wrong reasons. But as she looked into his eyes, she saw the sincerity there, the vulnerability that had been hidden beneath his polished exterior. He wasn't just a wealthy CEO, he was a man who had wanted something real. "I never wanted anything from you, Jack," Maria said softly. "I helped you because you and Timmy needed it. But now, I don't know what to think. You've been hiding so much from me." Jack stepped closer, his voice pleading. "I didn't want to lie to you, Maria, but I didn't know how to tell you the truth without scaring you away. I've been living in a world where people only care about what I can give them, not who I am. But when I met you, I felt like I could finally be myself. I didn't want to ruin that." Maria's heart softened. She could feel the weight of his words, the sincerity behind them. She had never imagined that someone like Jack, with all his wealth and power, could feel so alone. As she looked at him, she realized that the man standing before her was more than just a CEO. He was a man in search of connection, of something real. "I don't know what happens next, Jack," Maria said quietly. "But I can't pretend that this doesn't change everything. I need some time to think." Jack nodded, his eyes filled with understanding. "I know. Take all the time you need. I just wanted you to know the truth." As Maria walked away, she couldn't help but wonder what would happen next. She had helped a stranger, and now that stranger was someone who could change her life forever. But was she ready for that? And would she ever truly be able to see him for who he was, without the shadow of his wealth looming over them? The answers were still unclear, but one thing was certain: her life would never be the same again. Asterisk, asterisk. Poor young girl. Let a strange man and his son stay for one night unaware. He's a millionaire CEO who... Asterisk, asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue with today's story. The days following their confrontation were filled with a tense silence between Maria and Jack. She had taken the time she needed, thinking over everything he had confessed. It wasn't that she didn't understand where Jack was coming from. It was just that everything felt so overwhelming. She had opened her home to a man who turned out to be a billionaire, and though she wanted to believe that his feelings for her were real, she couldn't shake the fear that he might still be hiding something. Was he only interested in her because of her kindness? Or was there something more? Jack, on the other hand, felt the weight of Maria's hesitation. He had never wanted to make her uncomfortable, but now it seemed as though his secret had placed an insurmountable distance between them. He respected her need for space, but each day without her talking to him felt like another step away from what he had hoped would be a fresh start. He had never felt more vulnerable, and he had hoped that Maria would see beyond his wealth, beyond the CEO title, to the man who had been hiding from the world, trying to find something real. One evening, as Jack was sitting in the living room, the silence stretched between them once more. Maria entered quietly, holding something in her hands. She approached him slowly, her face unreadable. "Jack, I've been thinking," she began, her voice steady but cautious. Jack stood up, his heart racing as he watched her walk toward him. Was this it? Was she going to tell him that it was over? "I know you've been through a lot, and I know you didn't want to lie to me," Maria continued. "But I need to understand more about you. If we're going to move forward, I need to know who you really are, who Jack Harrison really is." Jack's breath caught in his throat. He knew this moment would come, but hearing it from her, feeling the weight of it, hit him harder than he had anticipated. "I'm sorry, Maria. I should have told you from the beginning, but I was afraid. I didn't want you to look at me differently." Maria's gaze softened, but she didn't back down. "I want to understand, Jack. I want to know what you've been through and what made you choose to leave everything behind. But I need you to trust me, too. This isn't just about you. This is about us." The room was quiet for a long moment. Then Jack spoke, his voice low but filled with sincerity. "I left everything behind because I was tired of living in a world where people only saw my wealth, where every relationship felt fake. I wanted to be with someone who saw me for who I really was, not for the things I could offer. But I also needed to find peace with myself. I've been running away from the pressure, the expectations, the loneliness of it all. Coming here, meeting you, it was my chance to have something real. But I understand if you can't accept that." Maria felt the truth in his words. She had always believed that love had to be built on trust, and now she could see the vulnerability in Jack that she hadn't noticed before. She stepped closer to him, her voice gentle. "I'm not sure where this is going, Jack, but I believe in second chances. I believe in giving people the opportunity to prove who they are." Jack's face softened, and for the first time in days, he allowed himself to relax, even if just for a moment. "Thank you, Maria. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm grateful for it." Maria smiled, the tension in the room easing slightly. "I'm not forgiving you for your past, Jack. I'm giving you a chance to show me who you really are from here on out." The conversation marked the beginning of a new chapter for them both. It wasn't going to be easy, and Maria knew that, but she was willing to try. She had opened her heart to a stranger in need, and now, that stranger was someone who had the potential to change her life in ways she couldn't yet understand. But there was one thing she was sure of: she was going to take the risk. She was going to trust him, just as he was learning to trust her. Over the next few days, Jack worked hard to prove himself to Maria, not with grand gestures or expensive gifts, but with his actions. He spent more time with Timmy, getting to know the boy, helping him with his homework and taking him to the park. He listened when Maria spoke, truly listened, without offering advice or solutions. It was clear to her that he was making an effort, that he wanted to be more than just the CEO of a company. He wanted to be someone who was present, someone who cared. As they spent more time together, the walls between them slowly started to come down. Maria began to see the man behind the suit, the father behind the title. And for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to imagine what a future with Jack might look like. It wasn't perfect, and there were still many questions left unanswered. But one thing was certain: this was the beginning of something real, something that could change both of their lives in ways they hadn't yet imagined. Asterisk, asterisk, poor young girl. Let a strange man and his son stay for one night unaware. He's a millionaire CEO who... Asterisk, asterisk. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's continue with today's story. As the days passed, Maria and Jack began to find a new rhythm. Things weren't perfect, but they were different. Jack, the CEO with everything to lose, was becoming someone Maria could rely on, someone she was starting to see for who he truly was. She had learned not to judge a person by their title, but by their actions, and Jack was showing her time and time again that he wasn't just the millionaire businessman the world saw. He was a man with a heart, a father, and someone who longed for real connections. They spent more time together, and slowly, Maria's reservations started to fade. One evening, as they sat at the small table in Maria's apartment, enjoying a quiet dinner, Timmy spoke up, his voice curious. "Dad," he asked, "when are we going back home?" Jack paused, his fork halfway to his mouth, before he set it down. Maria felt a wave of unease wash over her. She had grown used to Jack and Timmy being a part of her life, and the thought of them leaving felt like an empty space she wasn't ready to face. Jack looked at Timmy, his expression softening. "Not just yet, Timmy," he replied gently. "We're still figuring things out." He turned to Maria, offering a small smile. "I'm not ready to go back to my old life just yet. I needed a break, a chance to breathe, and being here with you two has been exactly what I needed." Maria nodded, her heart swelling with a mix of emotion. She had grown attached to Jack and Timmy, and the thought of them leaving so soon made her realize just how much they had become a part of her life. But she also knew that Jack had his own battles to fight, his own decisions to make. She couldn't ask him to stay if he wasn't ready. "Take your time," Maria said softly. "I don't want you to feel rushed. Just know that I'm here, no matter what you decide." Jack's eyes met hers, gratitude shining in them. "Thank you, Maria. I don't take that for granted." As the night went on, they talked about everything and nothing about Timmy's favorite foods, about the things Jack missed most about his old life, and about Maria's dreams. The more they spoke, the more they realized how much they had in common. The barriers between them continued to fall, and for the first time in a long time, Jack felt like he was living in a world where he could be himself, without the pressure of expectations weighing him down. The next morning, Maria woke up to the sound of laughter coming from the living room. She smiled to herself as she walked out of her bedroom and saw Jack and Timmy playing a board game together. Timmy's laughter was contagious, and Jack seemed genuinely happy. It was a side of him that Maria had never seen before. He wasn't the CEO. He wasn't the man with the weight of the world on his shoulders. He was just a father, spending time with his son. And in that moment, Maria realized how much she had come to care for both of them. Later that day, Jack took Maria aside. "I've been thinking," he said, his voice more serious now. "I don't want to leave, but I also don't want to be in this limbo forever. I've been living in hiding, but I can't stay away from my responsibilities forever. I know what I need to do." Maria nodded, her heart heavy with the understanding that Jack's time here was limited. "You don't have to explain, Jack. I get it. I just want you to be happy, whether that's here with us or back to your life." Jack smiled, his eyes soft. "Thank you, Maria. You've given me more than I ever thought possible." That night, as they all sat together, there was an unspoken understanding between them. Maria knew that Jack had his own journey to take, and though she wasn't sure where it would lead, she was willing to be there for him, wherever it took them. Jack, for his part, knew that he had found something real in Maria, a connection that transcended wealth, power, and status. The next day, Jack made a phone call that would change everything. He reached out to his company, explaining that he needed some time away, that he wasn't ready to return to the high-stakes world of business just yet. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the right one for him. For the first time in years, he was choosing something other than work. He was choosing himself, choosing Maria and Timmy. And it was a decision he knew he wouldn't regret. As the days passed, Maria and Jack grew even closer. The tension that had once existed between them melted away, replaced by a deep understanding and respect. Jack continued to support Maria, helping her with anything she needed, while also spending more time with Timmy. Maria, in turn, helped Jack find the peace he had been searching for, even if it was only for a little while. And though the future was uncertain, they both knew that whatever came next, they had found something worth fighting for, a bond that neither wealth nor status could break. Asterisk, asterisk, poor young girl. Let a strange man and his son stay for one night unaware. He's a millionaire CEO who, asterisk, asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's continue with today's story. Over the next few days, life in the small apartment became something new for Maria and Jack. They were no longer just two strangers who had crossed paths by chance. There was a sense of familiarity between them, a bond that neither of them expected but both secretly wanted. Maria had learned to accept Jack for who he was, and Jack had found peace in a world far from the corporate pressure that had once defined him. However, despite the growing connection between them, Maria couldn't ignore the reality that Jack's life was about to change. One evening, as the sun set, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Jack sat across from Maria at the kitchen table, his expression thoughtful. Timmy was in his room, playing with his toys, and the apartment was quiet, save for the occasional hum of the refrigerator. Jack looked at Maria, his face soft yet conflicted. "Maria," he began, his voice steady but laced with emotion, "I've been thinking a lot about what comes next. I've been hiding away here, trying to find myself, but there's a world out there that needs me. Timmy needs me. I need to make some decisions." Maria nodded, her heart heavy. She had known this moment would come, but hearing it from Jack's lips made it all the more real. She had grown attached to him, to Timmy, and the thought of them leaving was something she wasn't ready for. But she understood that Jack had responsibilities, both as a father and as a CEO. "I understand," Maria said quietly. "I can't ask you to stay if it's not what you want. You have your life, your work. I just want you to be happy, Jack." Jack's gaze softened, and he reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "It's not about what I want, Maria. It's about what's right for Timmy, and for me. I can't keep running from the life I've built, but I don't want to go back to it as the person I was before. I want to be someone better. For you, for Timmy, for me." Maria's heart swelled at his words, but there was a part of her that was afraid. Afraid that once Jack returned to his world, the man she had come to care for would disappear into the man everyone else knew. "I don't know if I can go back to that world, Jack," she admitted. "I don't belong there." "You don't have to," Jack said, squeezing her hand gently. "I don't want you to change, Maria. I don't need you to be someone you're not. I just need you to be with me. I need you to help me find my way back to the person I used to be, the one who cared about more than just business." The sincerity in his voice hit Maria like a wave, and for a moment she was speechless. She had never seen this side of Jack, the vulnerable man who was willing to admit his mistakes and face the truth. She had always thought that money and power were the most important things in the world, but now she was realizing that for Jack, it wasn't about those things at all. "I want to help you, Jack," Maria said softly. "I just don't know if I'm enough." "You're more than enough, Maria," Jack replied, his voice filled with warmth. "You've already helped me more than you'll ever know." As the night wore on, the two of them sat in silence, each lost in their thoughts. Maria knew that Jack's world was complicated, and she didn't know what the future held for them. But she also knew that she had a place in that future, a place where she could help Jack become the man he wanted to be, the man he truly was. The next day, Jack made a decision. He called his lawyer, his assistant, and the team at Harrison Technologies. He was ready to step back into the world he had left behind, but this time, he wasn't going to do it alone. He wanted Maria and Timmy by his side. He knew that with them, he could find balance in a life that had once been consumed by work. Later that afternoon, Jack and Maria took a walk through the park. Timmy ran ahead, laughing as he played with the other children. Jack and Maria walked side by side, their fingers brushing occasionally, a subtle reminder of the bond they were building. "Are you sure about this?" Maria asked, glancing up at him. Jack smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." And with that, Maria knew that no matter what challenges they would face them together. They had both come a long way from where they started, and they were ready to face whatever the future held. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but with each other's support, they could make it through anything. As the sun set behind them, casting a golden glow over the park, Maria felt a sense of peace settle over her. She didn't know where this journey would take them, but she knew one thing for sure: they were on this journey together. Asterisk, asterisk. Poor young girl. Let a strange man and his son stay for one night unaware. He's a millionaire CEO. Who? Asterisk, asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue with today's story. The days that followed were filled with a quiet sense of anticipation. Jack had made the decision to return to his life, but this time, he wasn't going back as the man he once was. Maria had become a part of his world, and he was determined to include her in his new beginning. His company, Harrison Technologies, had been waiting for his return, but now he was more focused on finding balance between the world of business and the peace he had found with Maria and Timmy. However, there was still one thing that Jack had to face: the expectations of those around him. As the CEO of one of the most powerful tech companies in the country, people had always seen him as a symbol of success. He had built his empire from the ground up, but in the process, he had lost sight of the most important things: his family, his happiness, and his true self. Now, returning to the life he had left behind, Jack knew he would have to confront the expectations of his colleagues, his family, and even his own inner demons. One morning, Jack received a call from his assistant. "Mr. Harrison, there's a meeting scheduled for later today with the board members. They're eager to hear your plans moving forward." Jack rubbed his forehead, feeling the weight of the responsibility settling back on his shoulders. He had been avoiding the pressure for so long, but now it was back in full force. "Cancel the meeting," Jack said, his voice firm. "I'll handle things differently from here on out." His assistant hesitated. "But sir, the board is expecting—" "I said, cancel it," Jack repeated, cutting him off. "It's time for me to do things my way." As the conversation ended, Jack sat back in his chair, the reality of his decision setting in. He had built an empire, but now he was willing to risk it all for something that truly mattered. Maria and Timmy had shown him a life beyond the corporate world. A life that was filled with love, honesty, and true connection. And though he couldn't abandon his responsibilities entirely, he knew he had to make room for what really mattered. Later that day, Jack found himself sitting at the kitchen table with Maria, his mind racing. He had made a choice, but now he had to live with it. "Maria, I've decided to make some changes," he said, his voice steady but filled with uncertainty. "I can't keep living the way I was. I want to be here, with you and Timmy, and not just as a CEO, but as a real person." Maria looked at him, her expression softening. "Jack, I know you're trying to find balance, but don't forget who you are. You're a great man, with or without the title. But you don't have to prove anything to me." Jack smiled, grateful for her words. "I know, but I've spent too long trying to be someone I'm not. I'm tired of hiding. I want to be the man I am with you, the man I can be with Timmy, not the one I've been forced to be for so long." Maria reached out and took his hand, squeezing it gently. "Then be that man, Jack. Be the man who chooses what's right for him, not just what's expected." As the evening passed, the two of them shared a quiet dinner, the weight of Jack's decision hanging in the air. There were still many challenges ahead. Jack had a company to run, a reputation to rebuild, but for the first time in a long while, he felt like he was finally on the right path. The world outside was still waiting for him, but now he had something more important: Maria, Timmy, and the promise of a future where he could truly be himself. The next few days were filled with phone calls, meetings, and adjustments. Jack made it clear to his team that things would be different moving forward. He would still lead Harrison Technologies, but he wouldn't let it define him. He would be present in his personal life, in the moments that mattered most. As Jack navigated these changes, he also spent more time with Timmy. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing day, and Maria could see the joy it brought Jack to be an active part of his son's life. She had never seen him so happy, so free from the pressures that had once consumed him. One afternoon, as Jack and Timmy were playing outside, Maria stood by the window, watching them. A sense of peace washed over her. She had always believed that love was the most important thing in life. But now, she realized that true happiness came from balance between love, family, and the freedom to be yourself. As Jack came inside, wiping sweat from his brow, he looked at Maria with a smile. "Thank you for being here, Maria. I don't know where I would be without you." Maria smiled back, her heart full. "You're not alone, Jack. We're in this together." In that moment, Jack knew that he had made the right choice. He had found the balance he had been searching for, not in the boardrooms or the money, but in the love he shared with Maria and Timmy. The journey ahead would be difficult, but for the first time, Jack felt ready to face it with them by his side. Asterisk. Poor young girl let a strange man and his son stay for one night unaware. He's a millionaire CEO who... Asterisk. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue with today's story. Jack had spent weeks grappling with his decision. On one hand, he had built an empire. Harrison Technologies was his life's work, and he knew that returning meant stepping back into the chaos he had been running from. But on the other hand, he had discovered something new, something real: love, family, and the quiet joy of simply being present. Maria and Timmy had come to mean more to him than anything else. And although the future was uncertain, Jack knew that he had to make his choices carefully. The pull between his old life and the life he was beginning to build with Maria was becoming stronger, and the pressure was mounting. It all came to a head one evening when Jack received an urgent call from his lawyer. The company was in crisis, the board had called an emergency meeting, and there were rumors of a hostile takeover. Jack knew that this was the moment he had been avoiding. It was time to face the reality of his responsibilities. Maria had been quiet for the past few days, sensing the tension, but tonight she was sitting across from him, waiting for him to speak. "Maria," Jack began, his voice heavy with the weight of his decision. "The company is in trouble. The board wants me to return, to fix things. They think I can save it, but I can't do it alone." Maria looked at him, her eyes filled with concern. "I know you've been trying to avoid this, Jack, but you can't keep running from it forever. You built that company, and you have to do what's best for it." Jack shook his head, frustration creeping into his voice. "I've done what's best for it for years, Maria, but now I don't know if I can keep doing it. I don't want to be that man anymore. I don't want to be the person who only cares about profits and success." Maria reached out, placing her hand on his. "You don't have to choose between who you were and who you are now, Jack. You're still the same person. You just need to figure out how to balance both." Jack sighed, leaning back in his chair. "I don't know if I can. The pressure's been building for so long. I don't even know if I can trust myself anymore." Maria's voice softened, filled with understanding. "You've changed, Jack, and that's okay. You don't have to have all the answers right now. Just take it one step at a time. You're not alone in this." Her words hit Jack like a wave. For the first time in a long time, he allowed himself to believe that he didn't have to face everything alone. Maria was right. He didn't need to choose between the man he had been and the man he was becoming. He could find a way to balance both worlds, his work and his personal life. Later that night, Jack made the call to his lawyer, telling him he would attend the meeting the following morning. But this time, things would be different. Jack was no longer the man driven solely by ambition. He was a father, a partner, a man who had learned that success was not measured by profits alone, but by the people you loved and the relationships you built. The next day, Jack walked into the boardroom, his heart pounding in his chest. The room was filled with the usual faces, colleagues who had been his friends, his allies, and sometimes his adversaries. They all looked up as he entered, some with expressions of relief, others with skepticism. Jack had always been the one to make the tough calls, the one who took charge. But today, things would be different. "I know the company is in trouble," Jack began, his voice steady but firm. "But I'm not here to just fix the numbers. I'm here to make sure we're doing what's right, not just for the bottom line, but for the people who work here, for the families who depend on us, and for the community we serve. We've lost sight of that, and it's time to change. There was a brief silence, and then the murmurs started. Some of the board members exchanged glances, others looked down at their notes. But Jack didn't back down. He had made his decision, and he was ready to face whatever came next. We're going to shift our focus, Jack continued. We're going to put people first, our employees, our customers, and our families. We're going to rebuild this company from the ground up, but we're going to do it with integrity. And if some of you aren't on board with that, I'll understand. But this is the direction we're going in, and I won't compromise. The room went silent again, but this time, the tension felt different. It was no longer about power struggles or business deals. It was about something more. Jack had spoken from the heart, and for the first time, his colleagues were hearing the man behind the title. After the meeting, Jack walked out of the building with a sense of relief he hadn't felt in years. The weight of his responsibilities had not disappeared, but he knew that he had taken the first step toward a future that was aligned with who he was becoming. He called Maria to tell her the news, and when she answered, her voice was filled with warmth. "You did it, Jack," she said, a smile in her voice. "You're doing it." Jack smiled, the weight in his chest lifting slightly. "We're doing it, Maria. Together." Oh. And as the day came to a close, Jack knew that the journey ahead would not be easy, but he was ready to face it with Maria, with Timmy, and with the knowledge that he had finally found a balance between his two worlds. Asterisk, asterisk. Poor young girl. Let a strange man, and his son, stay for one night unaware. He's a millionaire CEO who, asterisk, asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue with today's story. Days turned into weeks, and Jack's decision to lead Harrison Technologies with a new purpose was beginning to take shape. The board had reluctantly accepted the changes he proposed, and slowly, the company was shifting toward a more ethical and people-first approach. It wasn't easy, there were still many challenges ahead, and the old corporate culture wasn't going to disappear overnight. But Jack had a renewed sense of purpose, and he knew that this was the right direction for both him and the company. Maria, too, was adjusting to the new normal. She had never imagined that her life would be intertwined with Jack's in this way. But as they spent more time together, the connection between them deepened. She had seen Jack struggle with the weight of his past decisions, and now she could see the transformation in him. He was no longer just the CEO of a billion-dollar company. He was the man she had come to love. One morning, as Jack sat at his desk, reviewing documents, his phone buzzed with a message from his assistant. "Mr. Harrison, there's a problem. A former associate of yours, Nathan Larson, has been making threats. We believe he's trying to sabotage the company's new direction." Jack felt his stomach tighten. Nathan Larson was someone from his past, a business partner who had always been ruthless, willing to do anything to climb the corporate ladder. Jack had distanced himself from Nathan years ago, but it seemed that Nathan hadn't forgotten about him. The message was clear. Nathan wasn't going to let Jack change things without a fight. Jack looked at the message and felt a surge of anger. He knew that Nathan would stop at nothing to regain control of Harrison Technologies, and he wasn't about to let him succeed. But Jack also knew that he couldn't do it alone. He needed Maria. He needed her by his side, just as she had been when he first started to change his life. Maria had proven to him that there was more to life than success and wealth. She had shown him that love, trust, and family were just as important, if not more. Jack quickly dialed her number, his voice tense when she answered. "Maria, we need to talk. There's a problem with Nathan." Maria's heart sank as she listened to Jack explain the situation. She had known that Jack's past would eventually catch up with him, but she hadn't expected it to be this soon. "What do you want me to do?" Maria asked. Her voice steady despite the fear rising inside her. "I need you with me, Maria," Jack said. "I can't handle this on my own." Nathan won't stop unless we stand up to him together." Maria took a deep breath. She had been a part of Jack's life for long enough to understand what was at stake. She knew the kind of man Nathan Larson was, and she wasn't going to let him tear apart everything Jack had worked so hard to rebuild. "I'm with you, Jack," she said, her voice resolute. "We'll face this together." Later that day, Jack and Maria met with the rest of his team to discuss their plan of action. Nathan's threats were real, and they needed to act fast. Jack made it clear that they wouldn't back down, that they would fight for the future of Harrison Technologies and for the values they had worked so hard to instill. As the meeting ended, Jack looked at Maria, his gratitude clear in his eyes. "Thank you, Maria. I don't know what I'd do without you." Maria smiled, her heart full. "You don't have to do it alone, Jack. We've got this." The next few days were filled with strategy meetings, phone calls, and tense negotiations. Jack had underestimated Nathan's influence, but as the pressure mounted, Jack and his team began to take control. They exposed Nathan's attempts to sabotage the company, gathering evidence that proved his involvement. The battle was far from over, but Jack knew that he had made the right choice by involving Maria. She had been a steady presence, offering advice, support, and strength when he needed it most. Together, they were stronger than they had ever been. As the dust settled, Jack found himself at a crossroads. The war with Nathan was not yet over, but Jack knew that he was no longer the man who would sacrifice everything for success. He had Maria. He had Timmy. And for the first time in a long time, he had a sense of peace. The future was uncertain, but Jack was ready to face it with the people who mattered most by his side. One evening, after a particularly long day, Jack returned home to find Maria sitting on the couch, a cup of tea in hand. Timmy was asleep in his room, and the apartment was quiet. Jack sat next to her, his exhaustion evident. "We did it, Maria," he said, his voice filled with relief. "We stopped Nathan. The company is safe." Maria smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. "I knew you could do it, Jack." Jack wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. "We did it together," he corrected softly. As they sat in the quiet of the evening, Jack realized that he didn't need to be a billionaire to be happy. He had everything he needed right here, with Maria and Timmy. His empire was no longer just a company, it was a family, and that was enough for him. Asterisk asterisk. Poor young girl let a strange man and his son stay for one night unaware. He's a millionaire CEO who, asterisk asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue with today's story. The storm with Nathan Larson was behind them, but Jack knew that the aftermath of the corporate battle still loomed large. Harrison Technologies was stable for now, but he couldn't shake the feeling that there was always another storm on the horizon. What he had learned from that experience, however, was how much he truly valued the peace he had found in his personal life with Maria and Timmy. He couldn't return to the constant stress and pressure that had consumed him for so many years. He had to find a way to integrate his new reality into the life he was now building. That evening, as Jack sat at the kitchen table, looking over the company's financial reports, Maria entered the room, her presence comforting after a long day. Timmy was in the living room, drawing quietly on the floor. "You've been working for hours," Maria remarked softly, setting a cup of tea in front of him. "You're not going to change the world tonight, Jack." Jack smiled up at her, grateful for her lightheartedness. "I know," he replied, taking a sip of the tea. "But it's hard to step away when there's so much at stake. The company's secure for now, but we still have a long road ahead." Maria sat down beside him, her hand resting gently on his. "You've already made the biggest change, Jack. You're here. You're present. That's what matters most." Jack leaned back in his chair, taking in her words. The weight of his old life had been heavy, but with Maria by his side, he was beginning to see that the future didn't have to be defined by his past. He had a family now. He had a future with them. And that was enough. The next few weeks were filled with a newfound sense of calm. Jack still worked hard to ensure the stability of Harrison Technologies, but his priorities had shifted. He spent more time with Timmy, helping him with his schoolwork, and taking him to the park. He and Maria began to plan for the future, something that Jack had never allowed himself to do before. For the first time in years, he was truly happy. However, Jack's peace was soon interrupted. One morning, as he was going through some emails, he received a call from an old business partner, Claire, who was still a key player in Harrison Technologies. "Jack," she said, her voice tight with concern, "we need to talk. There's something happening in the market, and it's going to affect everything." Jack's stomach sank. He had hoped that the worst was behind him, but it seemed that the company's battles were far from over. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice steady despite the unease building in him. "We've been targeted, Jack. Some of the competitors are starting to make moves, and we're at risk of losing market share," Claire explained. "I need you to come in. We need to come up with a plan." Jack took a deep breath. "I'll be there," he said, hanging up the phone. He turned to Maria, his mind racing. "I have to go. There's a problem at the company." Maria looked at him, her expression soft but understanding. "I know you've worked hard to keep it afloat, Jack, but remember what we've talked about. You don't have to do this alone anymore." Jack smiled, his heart warming at her words. "I know, Maria, but I've come too far to let it all slip away." Later that day, Jack went to the office, his mind focused on the challenges ahead. As he walked through the familiar halls of Harrison Technologies, he couldn't help but feel the weight of the past pushing against him. The old Jack, the one consumed by work and ambition, still lingered, and he knew that he would always have to battle that part of himself. But now, he had something worth fighting for. The meeting with Claire and the other executives was tense. The competitors were making aggressive moves, and Jack knew that the company needed a strong strategy to stay ahead. As they discussed possible solutions, Jack felt the pressure mounting. This was the fight he had tried to avoid, but it was clear that he couldn't escape it. Harrison Technologies was his responsibility, and he had to lead it through this storm. As the meeting ended, Jack found himself standing by the window, looking out over the city. He knew that he had to make a decision. Either he would go back to the old ways, focused solely on business and success, or he would continue down the path he had started with Maria and Timmy. The thought of returning to the man he had been filled him with dread. He didn't want to lose what he had found with them. Just as he was about to leave, Claire approached him. "Jack, I know you're struggling with this, but you don't have to choose between your old life and the new one. You can make this work, as long as you don't lose sight of what matters." Jack turned to her, his resolve firming. "I'm not going back, Claire. I'm going to do this my way. And if that means taking some risks, then so be it." With that, Jack returned home to Maria and Timmy, his heart lighter than it had been in years. He knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but he also knew that he wasn't facing it alone. Together, they could overcome anything. Jack had already made the hardest decision of his life. He had chosen love, and he was ready to see where it would take him. Asterisk, asterisk. Poor young girl, let a strange man and his son stay for one night, unaware. He's a millionaire CEO who, asterisk, asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue with today's story. The days after Jack's decision to face the challenges at Harrison Technologies were both exhilarating and exhausting. The threat from his competitors had been significant, but with the help of his team and the unwavering support from Maria, Jack had managed to steer the company through the roughest patches. Despite all of this, he still couldn't ignore the feelings of unease that lingered within him. The balance between his professional life and his newfound peace at home was fragile, and Jack felt the weight of it every day. He spent long hours in meetings, drafting strategies, and making tough decisions. But when he returned home, it was Maria and Timmy who reminded him what truly mattered. As the weeks passed, Jack grew more confident in his ability to balance both worlds. He had learned how to delegate more, how to trust his team, and how to put his family first without sacrificing his responsibilities at the company. It wasn't easy, but with Maria by his side, He was beginning to realize that he didn't have to choose between the man he had been and the man he was becoming. One evening, as Jack was finishing up some work at his desk, Maria entered the room, her presence filling the space with warmth. "Are you still working?" she asked, a soft smile on her face. Jack looked up from his papers and smiled, though there was a hint of exhaustion in his eyes. "I'm almost done," he replied, his voice tired but content. "It's been a long day." Maria sat down beside him, brushing a strand of hair from his face. "You've been working too hard, Jack. You need to take a break." Jack chuckled softly. "I know. It's just that there's always something else to do, something I can't ignore." Maria took his hand, squeezing it gently. "But you don't have to do it alone. We're a team, remember?" Jack's heart swelled at her words. He had come so far from the man he used to be, the one who believed success meant sacrificing everything else. Now, with Maria and Timmy, he had found a new purpose. He wasn't just building a company, he was building a life. "I know," Jack said quietly, "and I'm grateful. I couldn't do this without you." The next day, Jack made a decision that would change the course of his future even further. He called a meeting with the board members of Harrison Technologies, something he had been avoiding for months. There were still those who were skeptical about the changes he had made, and Jack knew that he needed to show them that his new approach was not just a temporary shift, but a lasting change. He wanted to prove that success wasn't just about profits, it was about people, values, and making a difference. As Jack walked into the boardroom, he was met with the usual mixed expressions. Some of the board members looked at him with approval, others with hesitation. But Jack stood tall, his mind clear, and his heart full of conviction. "I've been thinking a lot about where we're headed," Jack began, his voice steady. "And I want to make it clear that the direction of this company is no longer just about the bottom line. It's about building a sustainable future for all of us, our employees, our customers, and the community we serve." There were murmurs around the room, and Jack could see the skepticism in some faces. But he wasn't deterred. "We've been so focused on growth that we've lost sight of the people who made us successful in the first place. It's time to change that. We'll continue to innovate, but we'll do it in a way that reflects our values, values that I believe we've been neglecting." He paused, letting the words sink in. "I'm committed to this change, and I need you all to be on board. If we're going to continue to lead, we need to be more than just a company. We need to be a company that cares." The room was quiet for a moment. Then, slowly, the board members began to speak. Some voiced their concerns, but others nodded in agreement. It wasn't going to be easy, but Jack could tell that the seeds of change had been planted. They weren't there yet, but for the first time, Jack felt that he had their attention and, more importantly, their trust. Later that evening, as Jack and Maria sat together, talking about the meeting, Jack felt a sense of relief. The road ahead was still uncertain, but he had made the right choice. The company was beginning to shift, but so was he. He wasn't the same man who had first walked into that boardroom, consumed by ambition and the desire for success. He was a man who had found a new purpose, a man who had learned that true success came from living authentically, from being present, and from caring for the people who mattered most. Maria looked at him with a smile, her eyes full of love and support. "You did it, Jack," she said softly. "You're doing it." Jack smiled back, feeling a warmth spread through him. "We're doing it, Maria, together." As the days went on, Jack continued to navigate the complexities of his work and personal life. But now, he did so with a sense of balance. He knew that there would always be challenges, but he also knew that he didn't have to face them alone. With Maria and Timmy by his side, Jack felt ready for whatever came next. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time, Jack felt like he had a real chance at building something that would last not just for him, but for the people he loved. ***. Poor young girl. Let a strange man and his son stay for one night unaware. He's a millionaire CEO who... ***. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue with today's story. The weeks following Jack's decision to face the storm at Harrison Technologies were filled with challenges, but also moments of growth. Jack was learning how to find balance between his life in the corporate world and the quiet peace he had found at home with Maria and Timmy. The company was adjusting to his leadership style, one that placed values and ethics at the forefront, but the road was still rocky. Jack knew that turning the ship around wasn't going to happen overnight, and there would always be forces in the business world that tested his resolve. However, his heart was lighter now, knowing he was no longer making decisions solely for success, but for the people around him. As time went on, Jack found himself spending more and more time at home, enjoying the simple things that had once been overshadowed by board meetings and deadlines. His mornings began with coffee and laughter as Maria and Timmy made their way through the day together. He had learned to truly listen to Timmy, to ask him about school and life outside the walls of their apartment, and in return, he began to see a side of Timmy that he hadn't before: the innocence and joy of a child who was finally allowed to be a kid. On one sunny afternoon, as Jack walked with Maria and Timmy through the park, something in him shifted. He had been used to rushing through life, but now, with each step he took, he realized that slowing down had brought him the kind of happiness he had never anticipated. He didn't need the validation of being a powerful CEO. All he needed was the family that stood beside him. As they sat together on a bench, watching Timmy chase after a ball, Maria turned to Jack. "How are you feeling?" she asked, her voice filled with genuine care. Jack looked at her, a soft smile spreading across his face. "I'm feeling good," he said, his voice steady. "Better than I ever have, actually." Maria nodded, sensing the change in him. "I'm glad. You've come a long way, Jack, and I'm so proud of you." Jack reached over and took her hand, his grip gentle but firm. "I couldn't have done it without you, Maria. You've helped me see what really matters." The peaceful moments with Maria and Timmy were exactly what Jack had needed to find his footing again. But as Jack's sense of contentment grew, he knew that challenges still awaited him. He had worked hard to make the necessary changes at Harrison Technologies, and though things were stable for the time being, the business world was anything but predictable. One morning, Jack received a call that would change everything. His phone rang, the number showing as Claire, his trusted colleague at the company. Jack answered, bracing himself for bad news. "Jack, we've got a problem," Claire said, her tone urgent. "There's a competitor that's making a move against us, and it looks like they've got some inside information. They're threatening to launch a product that could undercut everything we've been working on." Jack felt his stomach drop. It was the last thing he wanted to deal with, but he couldn't ignore it. "What's the plan?" Jack asked, his voice firm despite the worry brewing inside him. "We need to act fast," Claire responded. "We've got to stop them before they get too far. The competition is fierce, and we don't have the luxury of time." Jack hung up the phone, feeling the weight of the situation press on him. He had worked so hard to balance everything in his life, but now it seemed like the corporate world was once again pulling him back into its demanding grip. As he walked back into the living room, Maria could see the tension in his face. She stood up from where she had been sitting, noticing the change in his demeanor. "What's wrong?" she asked softly. Jack ran a hand through his hair, sighing. "There's a new threat to the company. It's a competitor, and they're playing dirty. We have to respond, but I don't want to get caught up in this again. I don't want to go back to the way I was." Maria walked over to him, her hand resting gently on his shoulder. "You don't have to go back to that, Jack. You've made so much progress, and I know you can handle this in a way that's true to who you are now." Jack looked into her eyes, grateful for her unwavering support. "I don't know what I'd do without you," he said softly. Maria smiled, her eyes filled with understanding. "You don't have to do it alone, Jack. Whatever happens, we're in this together." The next few days were filled with long hours of planning and strategizing, but Jack was determined to handle the situation differently. He wasn't going to let the corporate pressures take over his life again. With Maria's encouragement, he focused on the bigger picture, not just the product, but the values that had become his new foundation. Together with his team, Jack devised a plan that would allow Harrison Technologies to stay ahead, not through underhanded tactics, but by doubling down on their commitment to ethical innovation and customer trust. Jack made it clear that they would not stoop to the same level as their competitors. They would fight fair, and they would win by doing things the right way. As the tension of the crisis began to ease, Jack realized that he had made the right decision. He had chosen the path that not only protected the company, but stayed true to the man he had become. His old self focused solely on success had been replaced by someone who cared about more than just business. Jack had learned that balance was the key to happiness, and with Maria and Timmy by his side, he was ready for whatever challenges the future would bring. The storm had passed, but Jack knew that life would always have its ups and downs. The important thing was that he was no longer facing them alone. With the love of his family and the strength he had gained, Jack was ready to face whatever came next. Asterisk, asterisk. Poor young girl let a strange man and his son stay for one night unaware. He's a millionaire CEO who, asterisk, asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue with today's story. As the months passed, Jack settled into a rhythm that felt right for him, balancing his responsibilities as the CEO of Harrison Technologies and his life with Maria and Timmy. The road had been long and filled with challenges, but each day brought a new sense of clarity. Jack had grown in ways he never thought possible, realizing that his worth wasn't tied to the success of his company alone. It was tied to the relationships he had built, the love he shared with Maria and Timmy, and the life he had chosen to live. Jack was no longer just a businessman. He was a father, a partner, and a man who had finally found peace within himself. One evening, as the sun set over the city, Jack and Maria sat together on the balcony of their apartment, watching Timmy play in the yard below. The gentle hum of the city was a stark contrast to the quiet moments they shared. Jack turned to Maria, his heart full as he watched her. "You've changed my life, Maria," he said softly, his voice filled with gratitude. "I never thought I'd find something like this." Maria smiled, her eyes reflecting the warmth of the moment. "I think we've both changed each other, Jack," she replied, reaching for his hand. "I never expected this either, but I'm so glad it's with you." Oh? Their journey had been a long one, but it had brought them to this point, a place of stability, love, and mutual respect. Maria had helped Jack find the courage to step away from the pressures of his former life and embrace the things that truly mattered. And in return, Jack had shown Maria that there was more to life than just survival. Together, they had built a foundation that was strong enough to weather any storm. The following weeks brought more change, but the kind that felt natural. Jack's leadership at Harrison Technologies continued to grow, and the company was thriving under the new direction. His decision to prioritize people over profits had created a ripple effect, attracting employees who shared his values and customers who appreciated the company's ethical approach. Jack realized that success didn't have to come at the cost of integrity, and he was determined to continue down this path. As Jack's life at the company stabilized, he and Maria began to look ahead to their future. They talked about their plans, their dreams, and the life they wanted to create together. It wasn't just about business anymore. It was about family, love, and building something that would last. They both knew that the challenges weren't over. Life would always have its ups and downs, but they were ready to face whatever came next together. One morning, as Jack sat at his desk, reviewing documents, he received a call that would be the final piece in his journey. It was from a former mentor, someone who had always believed in Jack's potential. "Jack," the voice on the other end said, "I've been watching your progress, and I have to say, I'm impressed. You've done what so many people thought was impossible. I think it's time for you to step up even more. There's a bigger role for you in the industry, and I want you to be part of it." Jack listened carefully, feeling the weight of the offer. It was an opportunity that could take him to new heights, but it also required a choice. It was a reminder of the world he had left behind, the world of power and prestige, where success was measured by titles and achievements. But Jack had already made his decision. He had found something far more valuable than titles and recognition. He had found a life worth living, one that was built on love and integrity. After a long moment of silence, Jack spoke, his voice firm. "Thank you for the offer, but I'm going to have to pass. I've found my place. I'm right where I need to be." With that, Jack made his final decision. He wasn't going to chase success for the sake of it anymore. He had everything he needed right here, Maria, Timmy, and the chance to build something that mattered. He wasn't just a millionaire CEO anymore. He was a man who had found balance, purpose, and most importantly, peace. As Jack looked out the window at the world beyond, he knew that he had made the right choice. The future was uncertain, but he was ready for it. He had everything he needed to face whatever came next: the love of his family, the strength to make his own path, and the understanding that true success came not from what you achieved, but from the people you loved and the life you built. The journey had been long, but it had led him to the greatest success of all: a life filled with love, meaning, and the promise of tomorrow. Together, they would face whatever the future held, with hope in their hearts and strength in their souls. This captivating story explores a journey of love, transformation, and redemption, embodying the essence of millionaire stories where wealth and success take on a deeper meaning. It follows the life of a young girl who unknowingly invites a strange man and his son into her life, only to later discover that he is a millionaire CEO trying to escape the pressures of his high-profile career. Through their unexpected connection, the narrative unfolds, blending personal growth and corporate battles, as the millionaire CEO learns the true value of family, love, and balance. These millionaire stories are not just about wealth, but about the emotional journey of finding what truly matters in life. As the characters face challenges in both their personal and professional lives, they are reminded that success isn't only defined by a title or bank account, but by the connections they make and the life they build. From the first encounter to the final resolution, the millionaire stories in this tale teach us the importance of staying true to one's values, the power of transformation, and how love can change everything. This inspiring story brings to light the true meaning of success, giving you a unique perspective on millionaire stories that go beyond the superficial to touch the heart. Through ups and downs, this narrative proves that real millionaire stories are about finding peace, love, and a purpose greater than just financial gain.